Alright, chicos, our topic for today is los verbos reflexivos, or reflexive verbs. Now, we have something quite different in English, so English and Spanish are pretty different when it comes to reflexive verbs. Make sure that you're filling out your notes as we go through this. Alright, so your first question. Let's talk about the definition of a reflexive verb. Alright, so to describe an action that involves oneself, use reflexive verbs. So essentially, the person doing the action and receiving the action are the same. Alright, you might have noticed that our vocab list is kind of funny. There are words that are very similar. So we can identify reflexive verbs by that say at the end of the infinitive form. So make sure you answer that true or false question. Can you identify a reflexive verb by the say at the end of the infinitive form? So, for example, one of your vocab words, afeitarse, I know it's reflexive because it has a say at the end. So, to shave oneself. The person doing the action and receiving the action are the same. Now, this doesn't mean that all verbs now are reflexive. So, for example, lavarse means to wash oneself. But we've already seen our verb lavar when we're talking about washing dishes, lavar los platos. So, just our regular verb lavar means to wash an object or an animal. Alright, so let's figure out how we can use these puppies. First of all, rewind. There's a reflexive verb that we've talked about since the first week of Spanish 1. So can you think about what that verb might be? Think about the phrase where the person doing the action and receiving the action are the same. If you guessed llamarse, you are correct. Me llamo Luis. I call myself Luis. Alright, now we can figure out how we're going to use these suckers. Alright, first of all, let's figure out what our reflexive pronouns are. Make sure that you fill out this chart. This is super important. You have to get to know these as soon as possible. So our reflexive pronouns are me, te, se, nos, os, and se. So in order to form one of these phrases, you're going to place a reflexive pronoun before the verb. Very important, that reflexive pronoun, or that me, te, se, nos, os, and se goes before the verb. So, if we want to conjugate levantarse in the yo form, then what pronoun are we going to use if we're in the yo form? If you selected me, you are correct. And then if you'll notice, we're just left with our regular AR verb, levantar. Step number 2. You're going to conjugate the verb based on the subject, just like your regular verb. So, for this example, our subject is yo, so I'm going to tack on an O at the end. Yo me levanto. In English, that means I get myself up, or I get up. Alright, so here's your first opportunity to stop and practice. I want you to write what those sentences mean in English. Me baño rápidamente, Juan se despierta, and te pones la chaqueta. Go ahead and hit pause and write those translations now. Okay, let's see how you did. Me baño rápidamente. I bathe myself quickly. Número 2. Juan se despierta. Juan gets up. And finally, número 3. Te pones la chaqueta. You put on a jacket. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Okay. So here's another opportunity for you to stop and practice and kind of refresh our present tense conjugations. It's been a while since we've worked with those. So what I would like for you to do is go ahead and fill in what your present tense conjugations would be if we're going to conjugate our verb maquillarse, which means to put on makeup. So go ahead and hit pause and do so now. Alright, let's see how you did with these conjugations. Me maquillo, I put on makeup. Te maquillas, you put on makeup. Se maquilla, he, she, or you formal puts on makeup. Nos maquillamos, we put on makeup. Os maquilláis, you all familiar, or you all Spain, in Spain put on makeup. And se maquillan, they, or you all formal put on makeup. Notice, ladies and gentlemen, in order for us to have a correct conjugation, we need both our pronoun as well as our verb conjugation in order for this to be correct. Also, pay attention that for número tres and número seis, our difference is with our verb conjugation. So if it's se maquilla, you know that you're going to be in that third person singular. Se maquillan, we're going to be that third person plural. Okay. So your last opportunity to practice for the day, I want you to go ahead and conjugate those 4 verbs. There you go. Conjugate those 4 verbs in what our conjugation would be in Spanish, and then tell me the English translation. What does that mean in English? Ojo! Watch out, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget we've got some stem changers in there. So remember our stem, you might need to review our stem changing rules in the present tense. So go ahead and hit pause and do this practice now. Alright, let's check your answers. First of all, we're going to go over the Spanish conjugations and then we'll go over the English translation. So, entrenarse in the nosotros form would be nos entrenamos. Dormirse in the ellos form would be se duermen. Acostarse in the tú form would be te acuestas. Notice number 2 and number 3 follow our stem changing rules. They're both O to UE stem changers. And then finally number 4, arreglarse in the vosotros form is os arregláis. Alright, and then what do those mean in English? Nos entrenamos means we train. Se duermen means they fall asleep. Número 3, te acuestas, you go to bed. And number 4, os arregláis, you all get ready. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have for today. Make sure that you write down any questions that you have on your notes or any spots where you kind of got confused so you can get those questions answered when you come to class.